All right, we're live. Before we get started, I need to align the planets. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, I'm joined by Parker. Um, we talked just a little bit backstage. I'm just going to quickly recap that, and then you can correct any errors.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
um, you've been doing the TLC thing for like about 6 months, and you've kind of like made a splash in a very unique and specific way by building something, which I don't want to talk exclusively about, but I think it's a good starting point for a conversation about technology to talk about what is the technological thing that you built. Also, and finally, is there anything you want to say about yourself beyond that for context as we start a conversation?
Conversation. Yeah, that's good. I don't know if I have any extra context to start with. I think we'll get to any context if we need it. I beyond just that, I love the TLC. TLC is a great place. Um, yeah. So I'll do the really quick thing because I've introduced it a few times, but there is a search engine now, right, for the TLC, right? Thislittlecorner.net. I'm trying to get the other domain names. There are a couple more. I think that are out there, like thislittlecorner.com. I think someone has that, and they should give it to me. Um,
Let's
I mean,
we can start a campaign. We can
campaign.
start a campaign and just make branding and we'll get them all.
No, I think it's actually someone from the TLC. I need to hunt that down. But yeah, for now, .net's a perfectly serviceable domain. But yeah, it's got transcripts from every video from every channel in the TLC that exists as far as I'm aware at the moment, and circa sometime last fall, um, probably in November, probably the start of November is the cutoff date. I think maybe a little earlier. And there's some archival material too from Ryan Lewis's work, I think too. But basically, yeah, you can search all the transcripts, all the text, and not only do we have the YouTube transcripts, I went back and did um, retranscribing using a new fangled AI model. It's Whisper, I think is one of them anyway, or it's based on Whisper. Um, that when redid the transcripts, which are more accurate than Google's a lot of times, or at least cover a lot of the spots where Google doesn't quite get the recordings right. Sometimes it does goofy things with words. So at least we have two chances, right, to get the right phrase or word, so it makes it easier to find. So the search engine looks through the whole set, allows for fuzzy searching and phrase searching and more advanced querying if you like to really like find a very specific phrase or whatever, right? You can filter by channels, all that good stuff. That was the initial thing. Trying to think of other parts about it, because I really like finding connections. There's technically a graphing feature too, where you can look at reference graphs. So I went and pulled any links within descriptions of videos. So if you link to someone else's video in the description, you can go and see how those connect together, right? So if you click a video and it says it has reference links, you can basically see a spiderweb graph kind of deal, right? That shows you relationships between videos out to, I think, 3 levels probably, before it starts to bog down because that's just a bit much, combinatorial explosiveness or something like that, right? um, yeah, but in general, right? It's a helpful tool for maybe finding something else if you like exploring graph networks or something like that, right? I like those, so that's what I built it for. So a few little features like that. I thought of other things like eventually semantic search. I played around with that some. If you've ever heard of that, it kind of uses
What is that?
it's like basically you take chunks of phrases or words or whatever, right, and you put them in a vector space. So like if you think of like a coordinate system or like a graph, right, cat and dog will be kind of close to each other but they're not quite the same, right? And maybe the word pet will also be kind of near that. And so when someone searches for something, right, if you search for the word pet, it's going to find things that are near it in this relational sort of like, if you think of it almost like a physical space, things that are roughly over there, it's going to find things that are near that, right, using this thing. And so imagine if you take all the phrases that are said in a giant corpus of text and do that same thing to them and try to place them in this giant space, then you can find things that are near each other in a relational sense or in a like similarity sense, but they're not quite the same word. So it allows you to search for things like phrases that are similar to other phrases. So you may not know exactly what Paul Vanderklay said or Jordan Peterson said, right? But as long as you said something that was kind of similar, it's going to end up in the same vector space, and thus the results are going to come back. You know, we're going to get the top 5 things that are in that area, and then you found it, right?
Is
That's,
that top 5 area that comes from the TLC hive mind itself? So like,
yeah.
this is what the TLC thinks are similarities.
Well, you use something called like use an encoder at the beginning, which is like takes chunks of text or whatever and says that these are similar. But
Okay.
because it's fed originally with, and I'm going to explain this a little badly probably, but because it's fed originally by the whole corpus of the TLC, then yeah, all the things that are in that space in that area are going to be chunks of TLC phrases, right? Like it's just going to be little pieces of things that people have said. A machine at the beginning did the math to figure out which ones should be near each other by saying
Yeah.
like these words or phrases are kind of similar, so put them here or here. It's some very advanced math because it's not 3 dimensions. They actually do it in like 512 dimensions or something like that, right? So you
I have
can,
I have questions about that, but keep
yeah,
going.
sure. Yeah, but that's basically it. I explored it a little bit earlier when I was making this search thing. This one does not use semantic search right now, but there is somewhere or another on the back end a prototype that does semantic search, which works just as well in my experience from my limited time using it, and maybe better in some cases. Like if you're searching for a concept more so than a exact phrase, you might find it, right? It might actually help you get closer to finding a concept rather than that. Modern search engines a lot of times use semantic search. I think Google does. They probably use a mix, but they use semantic search, I think.
Did you meet Grizz and Ezra at South Estuary?
I met Grizz briefly. I don't think I met Ezra.
Okay. I'm not going to follow this rabbit trail, but I'm going to set up a potential future.
Sure.
So that whole 512 dimensions vector space, that sent me down like a real trippy rabbit hole, talking to a few different AIs. And then I built this thing about dimensional space and archetypes and spirits and presented it to Grim and Ezra. So I'll send you that video
Yeah.
because I want to ask you questions and I don't want to talk too much.
Sure.
But you're either going to find it interesting or you're going to say, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Here's the math. And either way, I think that's interesting. So maybe that would set up a future conversation with you, me, and some other people that could be fun.
Sure.
So I'm just going to just plant that seed.
Yeah.
Did you say the website you created it in November?
Yeah, roughly November. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so you discovered TLC in the fall, and then your response to discovering TLC was to build a search engine, and you said, "I love TLC." So, what exactly is that? Because most people don't discover TLC and then build websites.
They should really, I think. I'm a lot of it comes from this like I have a really strong like nostalgic pull towards the old internet, right? And when people made their own little things and they put them out there, and you guys go find people's little stuff, right? You get to do these little journeys of discovery. You get to do the electrate thing, right? I've used the word electrate before, but it's like, the way that you experience the content is going to be kind of personal to you, right? Because you're the one who's going on this little journey. Hyperlinks, you're going and finding things, right? And so for years, basically, I've been in that sort of camp of like people need more personal websites, more blogs, more, if you ever heard of GeoCities back in the day or NeoCities now, right? Where people made their own little like, it was like a little hosting site. You could just make a HTML page, you just write what you want and you put it up there. Yeah. Or even I think the old MySpace, right? Where you edit HTML, right? Right. Like those are all really good things in my mind. And I've I try to practice what I preach in that regard and build things when I can. I have a handful of websites that I like, right? I made fan pages like people used to make, like they made like little, that they like some show or you like some topic, you go make a fan page, right? And you put all your favorite like pictures from it, and you know, write your thoughts about it, and things like that, right? Like it's just a good thing to do, I think, right? Because it leads to a healthy internet in my mind, um, as opposed to the sort of monolithic internet that we kind of see today, where there are like three important sites or something like that, and those aggregate the majority of the content or the majority of people's creative energy towards making content. Um, and so people are kind of one of my friends said the word like digital serfs, right? You know, like they're vassals, you know, they're underneath like these like overlords, right? Who are just like, yeah, work out in the digital fields and produce digital content that we're going to host here on our site and use it to make money or collect your data or whatever, right? Nothing wrong with doing those things. I mean, whatever, um, but I think people should think a bit more about having their own stuff. So that's one of the reasons, right? And I like solutions to problems. Now, I will be very transparent. I think I said this before. A lot of this website is vibe coded, right? I worked alongside of a couple different LLMs, right, to build it out. Um, because the part of the future of coding is vibe coding, probably, which, you know,
Yeah.
is just like having a conversation with the machine and getting it to produce a result. You decide whether or not the result is good, make changes, etc., iterate. So a lot of the site was built with that sort of framework. Um, yeah, that's a lot of it. But yeah, so to answer your question, why it is just kind of how I am, right? I like building things in general. I like building internet things even more in some ways, right? So I think people should do that.
Okay, you said you like building internet things even more,
Maybe, yeah.
and you said the phrase a healthy internet.
Hmm.
What does it mean to have a healthy internet? Like when you were talking about MySpace, I was honestly on my MySpace there was a picture of like a bunny rabbit with like three pancakes on top of his head, and like that member came back,
I've seen that picture. Yeah,
and like it made me smile.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, but if you were to ask me about like I don't like my YouTube channel or my Substack, um, I don't think it would have the same like nostalgic effect. I mean, it wouldn't because I like Substack just introduced some new like fonted color customizations, and I was like excited about that. But that's not anywhere near like what I did on MySpace when I was a junior in high school.
Right. What a healthy internet is a like complicated question that I have a lot of thoughts about. But like, I think that the internet was better when it wasn't monolithic, right? I think there was some capture that occurred, right? By um, we can just broadly use the idea corporations or something like that, right? That really took a lot of the, like I said, creative energy and just kind of brought it into like they introduced convenience, but at the cost of freedom in some sense. And people will trade those things. That's fine. Um, but I think in general, the internet was more healthy when people had a more decentralized sort of setup, right? There's more control in the hands of the individuals, more creativity is utilized for individual pursuits, right? Rather than just, like I said, kind of being harvested in some sense by the big machine. I don't know if that's like Paul Kingsnorth machine, but you know, some kind of machine that's like that.
Yeah.
I think that's healthier, right? When people had, if you've ever heard the concept of web rings, right? It's like where if before you had good search engines, you and I may be on a TLC web ring, right? Where everyone in the TLC puts a link on their site to the next site over in the list.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right. So you can, so if I wanted to discover a topic and maybe it's TLC, maybe it's bunnies, right? And we're both in the bunny web ring, like you would click that and you would go to the next one. You're like, oh, another bunny site, right? Or whatever, right? Like things like that. Those are like decentralized forms of discovery and community, right? They don't require any, for the most part, central person to host something who now has control over what can be put there or whatever, right? It's a bit more flat. And I think that's useful and helpful. I think it helps people. Like I'm a big advocacy for privacy and freedom, and that affords both of those more than, you know, if you host your site via, you know, if your only sort of like presence on the internet is Facebook or something like that, right? Because then it's entirely at the whims of Facebook, right? It's just, all your content there is could ultimately be removed by them at any given time, right? Um, so that's, there are a lot of other like more positive things that I would see in like in a healthy internet. Like again, I think community is better when you kind of have smaller pockets of communities, right? I think like things like forums, right? I think they have a size that once they get to a maximum size and begin to get too big, then they start to degrade in quality, right?
Mm.
And so I think these like little like federated pockets or things like that just lead to healthier communities. One of my biggest communities that I interact with personally is like my friend group, and we all use Discord together. Discord is out of our control. I don't love that, but we do have a small little pocket of the internet where we share our content with each other. It acts as like a little mini social media, but it's not, overly massive. It's not like really controlled by someone else too much. We can always move everything somewhere else if we needed to, but right. It's those like it's kind of like a Dunbar number thing too at the same time, right? I'm talking a lot about a lot of different features, I think, but like where you can only really probably have healthy communities of certain sizes, right? In terms of like the people knowing each other and things like that. So those are just a couple of different facets that I would see in like a healthy internet, smaller, more federated, things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you were talking about like the internet moving from decentralized to monolithic, I just had like a series of different like domains in like other domains of my life where I went like, I think that's kind of like the story of the last 60 years. Like, not just the internet story, but like, that's the story of like how we eat and drink things is like now everything's at the grocery store and it's like difficult if you wanted to
Mhm.
make your own things. It's actually kind of hard.
Right. And like economies of scale certainly have a place, right? I can't fight that math, right? Like building a factory to produce something is going to make it cheaper, right? Like you can just churn out the same thing over and over again, and hosting everything on a big server farm somewhere is going to be cheaper, right? Than having to spin up your own website somewhere, right? And Facebook makes it, or Facebook or Twitter or whatever makes it super cheap, where you pay basically
Mm.
nothing, seemingly, right? It doesn't cost you anything to have a website, right? Somehow, right? We all know that it was like data and advertising that pays for that in the back end at some point, right? But at the beginning, people didn't really think about it too much, and even when you do think about it, you're like, well, whatever. And I get that. Um, but yeah, like a lot of things have moved towards centralization, and there's a good reason in a lot of ways because it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper, more convenient, it's more efficient in a lot of ways. So there are trade-offs, but yeah, we kind of sleepwalked into it in a number of areas, the internet being one of them. Um, and it's hard to go back, you know. And again, I'm not railing against all like centralization. I think there are plenty of things that can and should be centralized, right?
Yeah.
Having a centralized search engine is good in some ways, or having a few of them, right? It's nice when you have competition and different people who are like vying for the top. But it's funny. I just rewatched a video recently about like cybernetic theory and stuff like
Okay.
that. And the cybernetic theorists, at least some of them, thought like the internet was going to be this like super democratizing, very like flattening like place of pure information, and that governments and that corporations wouldn't have any spot in it. You should go read the I think it's called the Internet Manifesto, which was published in like the 90s, and they have like this like super hopeful vision for like how everyone's gonna like information's gonna be free and people are gonna all have their own like decentralized stuff. It just didn't work out like that, right? Like they were wrong. People own the wires. Like the government owns the cables under the sea. The corporations own the data centers, right? Someone has to pay the bills. The data doesn't just get to exist for free somewhere. So like the centralizing forces were already out there. You know what I'm saying? Like we can see how some of the like how some of the data is free, right? And how some of it kind of cut out and like gets to do cool
Yeah.
things. But like, come on, at the end of the day, if you own the if I can go like cut the wire, right? Like I get to control the internet, right? Like yeah. So like you have to fight against that particular like inclination, because again, I think there's a natural tendency towards the centralizing, but just because of physical reality, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of things that are in physical reality that lead to that. But yeah, it was just a funny thing to encounter when I was thinking about the internet. I was like, oh yeah, they really thought that it was going to be different, but it's too, and like there's a whole rabbit hole for like cybernetics and stuff, and different ideas that came out of it, because some of it does see everything as a singular monolithic system that maybe isn't free. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, different rabbit hole.
Okay. So the search engine
Mhm.
that you built for TLC, what would it make you happy to see people using it to do? That was a poorly grammatically phrased sentence, but
Oh no, I got it. I got it. I mean, the same sort of things that I use it for. Because like, and this is the other thing I guess I kind of left out, which is like, I also like to build tools for myself, and I wouldn't build something, or it's less likely I'd build something if I wasn't going to use it myself, right? Um, so I think people already use it for finding clips and things like that, which is great, right? For branding or for just like picking out topics. I use it for like topic discovery. I think that's great, right? Or like I have some sort of question, or I think of something, and I'm like, I wonder if someone in the TLC has had discussions about whatever cybernetics or aliens. Recently, I found out that Paul Vanderklay talked about the book American Cosmic a few years ago. I was like, oh, I
oh,
wanted to know that, right? But I didn't know that until I went and searched for it, right, and saw that people were talking about aliens in some old videos, right? So that if people use it like that, that's exactly what I'm hoping for, right? Is just like additional discovery and research. Um, in the future, maybe some more sort of, maybe I can find other ways for better discovery. Again, something like semantic search, or something that helps like build these like topical areas or maps or whatever you want to call them, right? That help people have like a different sort of experience when going to go find something, and like they get to have a little adventure, traversing down the TLC rabbit hole, right? Because an interesting and underutilized, I'm kind of thinking of some of this right now, feature of transcribing is that things are transcribed already as clips. They're already 40-second chunks, right? So
oh.
it would be very interesting to see people. I can decide what size that is, but 40 seconds is a good size for the transcoding coding process. Um, it'd be interesting to see like a little way to hop from clip to clip to clip to clip, right? Like you could collage things if you wanted to, because people already kind of do things like that in the TLC sometimes, but you could probably make a thing. You could have a modified version of the search that finds you a bunch of different little like clips instead of the whole videos. It just finds you lots of little pieces that could like constellate or something. I don't
Can
know.
you
That's just an idea. Yeah.
can you play the video from inside the website?
If you click it, it takes you to YouTube. You
Takes
could
you to
have
YouTube.
it. You could have it do embeds. I think pretty easily. That wouldn't be too hard.
Because I'm curious how hard it would be if you could like create a clip generator from the website.
Mm.
That's I mean granted, I could give you a million ideas and you could be like,
Yeah.
these are terrible ideas, and that will take like 6 months. But
Mm.
that because I've tried to do like clip stuff on YouTube. I find it to be a miserable experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there are like tools that people use. I don't even. It's embarrassing. I'll tell you what I do. It's very embarrassing. I download the whole video. I
Yeah. Sure.
download the whole video and then I cut it up. And I feel like there's probably something on my iPhone I could be doing, but I don't really. I don't
Yeah.
do much iPhone app stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know how people are doing it. There probably are good tools for. I know that like YouTube has this built-in clip thing that you can do, and then but if you're making your own like supercut of things, I don't know. I would personally download the whole video, right, and just cut it from there like you did probably, because that's where I'm at. But I was gonna say that's one other thing about the search does have an archive of all the audio too. I've kept like just MP3s of every video, because like that's where the transcript, that's like the source of record for the transcribing, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
like, just in case it goes away and someone, it's too much storage space probably for me to keep every video, but I can at least keep the audio if you wanted to go back and hear it in context. um
So before we started recording, you told me you were like, "Yeah, I like to archive things," and then you said that you like keep all your internet history, and
Yeah,
I believed you, but like you really mean it when you say you like to
yeah,
archive
I
things.
do, because that's another um, a thing about the internet, and I probably said this before somewhere. It's like the internet is not forever, despite what people say. It's only forever if it's something you don't want to be out there, right? But like link rot is very real, right? Websites go away, like things just disappear over time because people don't maintain it, or because it just rolls off some stack somewhere. It just like goes away, and I hate that feeling, right? Maybe it's there's some underlying psychological reason why I hate that feeling, probably, but like I hate losing things like that, where it's like this was preventable. It wouldn't even have been that hard to save this, right? I should have just done it. So, I preemptively try to save things. It's like that thing that people like to quote from the old Nintendo manual. I think it's from like Pokemon or whatever. It's like everything that's not saved will be lost, right?
Mm.
True enough. Sounds deep anyway, but it is true on the internet, right? If you don't spend the time to save it, it will go away. So
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's just like I don't know, that reminds me of just like entropy. Like if you
yeah,
don't push back against it, it's gonna just devour. That's just how the universe works. Like
yes.
on the internet or in real life, things rot. Yeah.
Mhm.
So at some point, very quickly after you discovered the TLC, you picked channels to create RSS feeds out of, or to
Mm.
put into an RSS feed. How did you decide that? How did you decide what was TLC and what wasn't? Because I feel
Mhm.
like I've heard PVK ask that question, but
Yeah.
I don't think Neil or Karen asked you that question. And I'm just the kind of person that likes to ask the questions that nobody really wants to ask, but everybody wants to know.
Yeah, and that's been the perennial question for me too, right? As someone who came in, and I don't know everyone in the TLC, nor do I know all the channels. I only know a few, right, to start with. So a decent chunk of it came from Ryan's work originally, right? There was
Mm.
already a pre-existing list of maybe, I don't know, 50 or 60 channels, right? So that was a good starting point. Now I will say that like maybe 5 of those were already gone. And unfortunately my archival started like right after I think Chad like left, right? So I missed all of his stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I know he's back. But all that stuff's gone. I would like to get it at some point just to have the transcripts, but who knows if that will ever happen.
Well, PVK has some. President Foxman has some.
That's what I heard. Yeah. But yeah, then the rest of them I kind of asked people on Discord. I think I put out a couple different feelers and said, hey, who else is missing from this list, or who else needs to be in here? And people have sent me random different ones to add over time. So I've received like, another 10 or 15. So I think we're up to high 70s at this point, close to 80 probably. Recently Paul actually asked me for the list, and I was like, here's the list, and tell me if anyone's not on it that you're that's supposed to be here or something like that. And then also I have there are more, if people look, there are more channels on there that are technically in here, because I did go and grab ones that were referenced in descriptions as well. So if someone referenced a like a Rebel Wisdom video or something in
Oh,
their
yeah,
in
yeah.
their description, I went and pulled the transcript from that too, because why not, right? Like just in case it goes away. So you can, there's an extended search function or something that'll let you, it's called external, and it'll give you those transcripts too. So yeah, there really are technically more channels in here than that, but only like those specific videos from those. Yeah, if anyone sees that something's missing, tell me. Um,
Is the best way to tell you Discord?
um, Discord's fine, or just leave it in
Like,
a comment under this video, right?
okay.
Or if this is posted somewhere, yeah. I actually, I'm probably gonna I'll put a contact email on the site too. That would be a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that.
There we go. Now we're talking. So now people can just contact me with any kind of crazy idea, right? They can just be like,
Mhm.
hey, I think that this should be an app I can download on my iPhone. Like,
Yeah.
will you turn this into an app for me?
Mhm. I mean, Yeah, sure. Progressive web app, whatever. We can do that.
I hope people send you crazy ideas. I know nobody will because most people
Sure.
just don't do those kinds of things. But I'll just create fake email accounts so you don't know it's
And send,
me.
send me different ideas. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
just keep
that's
sending
good.
you
Yeah,
crazy.
sure. Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so you mentioned Paul Kingsnorth machine, but
Hmm.
you mentioned it in a way that makes me think that you didn't read the book, and I haven't read the book.
Yeah. I have not read the book. Two of my friends have read the book. I've heard a lot about it. I've listened to Kings North talk about it a few times. So I have a vague idea of what the machine is, kind of. Um, yeah. And I'm very like pro technology. And in some
Yeah,
ways, even pro a certain type of machine, right? It's hard for me to argue against a certain couple few sorts of progress, right? I think like there's this particular one that I think Kingsnorth talks about where it's like um people say without I think this is him, without the machine, right? Or machine spoken broadly, like a bunch of people would die, right, from like famines and stuff like that, right? Like we all this progress has given us, it's raised standards of living, it's eliminated a lot of poverty, et cetera, like the thing that we have right
refrigerated
now,
food.
refrigerated food, right? The infrastructure. The thing that we have right now is keeping people alive, right? And if we got rid of it, people would die. And I think he accused someone of like, holding people hostage via this mechanism by saying like, you can't do that, you can't get rid of it because of that. But I just like that. Yeah, I like that we've done that, and I think that it's great that we do that, and I think we should continue to do that in some sense, right? There are a lot of arguments that you can have about like progress and what's good about progress, but there are some things that I think are on the net very good, right? And there are also some things that I just really like, right? I'm not going to like pretend like I'm some like super, what's the right word? I don't know. Like I like air condition, right? Like I just do, right? I'm not going to make choices that make me forego air condition as a concept if I have to, right? I don't think he's arguing for that, but like a lot of those things fit within the same sort of sphere in my mind, right?
Yeah,
I know there are problems with modernity and, a lot of the infrastructure we built, and a lot of people see that. And there are a lot of the cracks are showing more and more, like, right, like over time, we see um, the really ugly parts of the giant machine, I think, right? And the way that it dehumanizes, right? That does happen a lot. I think we've encountered that more and more. But the machine is also what allows us to see it, right? Like in some sense, right? The internet in particular, right, gives us this sort of, despite all of its problems, right, and it does have a lot of problems, it gives us a really um, unique way to be able to share information that we just could not ever before, right? Like we can acquire some really high transparency that just would not be possible in the past, right? Like just the way you can do reporting and the way that you can do news and the way that we can share videos instantaneously, right? Like that wasn't a thing 20 years ago, right? Or maybe a little more at this point, but pretty close to 20 years ago, right? You just did not have that ever in history, period, right? Where you can have instantaneous transmission of like a live news event unfolding, right?
hmm
You can see it without any filter, right? It's just, obviously there are perspectives that are going on, but like you can see it, which lets you see like, you know, again, more of the messy sort of things that are happening, but it does give you a level of transparency and a level of sort of clarity, I think, about a lot of things. And that goes for another type of, the certain type of like YouTube journalism that kind of occurs. Again, fraught in some cases, but like it does, people can now just go and be a journalist by themselves and present information to the world, right? And that which wasn't possible. It's become democratized, right, in a way that it just wasn't before. You can be your own news station, and that's an impressive thing that I think allows us to critique the machine or maybe make improvements to the machine. I'm kind of hopeful that that's possible, right? Still, and I know some people think that it's not possible, and that we just have to get rid of it and start over with something new, right? But I tend to be a techno optimist in that, at least that kind of space, right? I think we can use the tools that we have to make things better.
Which thread do I want to pull?
Yeah,
That
no,
was
I
awesome.
said a lot. I said a lot. Yeah.
Um, so today is Tuesday, March 24th,
Mhm.
and 2 days from now, a conversation will release on my channel on YouTube. It's already live on Substack, but with a guy named Ross Bird,
Okay.
who is like TLC adjacent.
Hmm.
And that's also like an interesting category of people of like, I mean, Ross is a writer, so he has a couple YouTube videos, but his YouTube videos are, they might all be with Jordan Hall actually, or
Oh,
like
okay.
two
Mhm.
of the three or three of the four are with Jordan Hall. So they're really good YouTube videos. But like Ross wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm in TLC. Like, that's not something he would say. But he's like very aware of TLC and has talked to TLC people. Um, Sorry, that's a side note. But
Yeah.
in my conversation with Ross, one of the things we were talking about was he was talking about how much of our world is built via cause and effect. And he's arguing that there's an ancient pathway of call and response.
Hmm.
And I don't know, are you aware of Michael Levin?
Yes.
So like I think that what Michael Levin is up to is sort of like playing with this call and response pathway at the same time as cause and effect.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so okay, just I'll just put a pin in that. And Ross is also a surfer and a surf instructor,
Hmm.
and he was talking about how like when you get on a surfboard, the surfboard is a tool that was designed for you to partner with the wave. So
Right.
you're not like dominating the wave or you're not extracting anything from the wave. You're just partnering with the wave.
Hmm.
And I think he said it. I might have. I think it was him though. He was like, we were talking about how we need surfboard type technologies. We need more surfboard technology, which is technology that like partners with our natural environments. And you use the word dehumanize.
Hmm.
And I think I'm thinking a lot about what does it mean to have humanizing technology?
Sure.
Because I do feel like a lot of the modern world we built is dehumanizing and denaturizing.
Hmm. Yeah, because there certainly are design choices you can make that are humanizing or dehumanizing, um, in like say software design or interface design or
How do you do that? How do you make a choice that is humanizing?
um, it's a good question, right? I think it requires wisdom, right, in some sense, but you know, treating the human as the agent in the situation, right? Um, rather than like a product or a producer of material value, right? Not objectifying them, right? And that's a very like high level and broad idea of, as to how I would think about it, right? But right, really thinking about human agency a lot, I think, is a good start. Which I think will come into question more and more in the AI future where we're looking at. Questions about human agency. Um, yeah, I think that's a good step, right? You know, you could bring in some other like philosophical ideas as to like why or how, but um, just respecting the person and the humanity, right? When making your decisions. But again, that's kind of broad, and it really is going to depend on the actual thing that you're doing. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I think a good start is not using people as a means to an end, right? Or trying to thinking about that, even just having it in your mind, like kind of a Kantian thing. But you know, that's a possible start. Um,
What is human agency?
you're asking like hard questions. What is human agency, right?
This is what we do here. Is I just
Yeah.
I try to repeat the things that you say, and then just see how far we could drill down. And sometimes we find gold.
Yeah, sure. Got some like Socratic method going on there. Yeah, you know, thinking of them as the human as the chooser, right? The person who's going to make the choice, right? They're not just again like not just a cog in the machine, right? Not a mechanistic sort of like component. Um, a lot of like language probably has a lot to do with some of that too, like the way we describe um,
Mm,
people in these situations, right? Because it already frames like how you're going to expect them to be utilizing the piece of technology. Consumers or something like that, right? It has a certain like it gives you a certain idea as to what you think of them and what they're going to be doing with this thing that you've created.
yeah.
I'm not like harping on that word, but I'm just picking one, right? So, but yeah, what agency is again like seeing them as a individuals and b as having like choices in the matter, right? And not simply like a resource you're attempting to extract, or again a piece of a machine or a piece of a system, right, that you're trying to optimize for. All those things like maybe secondary because they're kind of necessary for certain things to work, right? I'm not going to I'm realistic about the way the world works, but I think having in mind um, their humanity, right, and what that means. Again, that means different things to different people too. But even if you just took a moment to think about like this is another person like me, right? Um, simple things. I don't know how well engineers do that, or people who work in Silicon Valley do that. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they think they can solve all of humanity though, like a math problem, right? Or all their problems, right?
Yeah.
They can just like fix it. It's a different sort of type of problem, but I think it has the same sort of flavor. Like, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking there are a lot of incomplete thoughts that we could get to at some point, but yeah,
Just throw them out. Give us the fragments. Let us shore up your fragments.
yeah. Well, I'm just I think back to like what I said, like Silicon Valley types, or sometimes get this idea that um gosh, what did someone say? They said something like something about how like if it's like the hammer and nails thing, like if everything you design is like an app, right, then
Mm,
an app is the only thing you're going to be able to offer as a solution to problems. um and then
yeah.
you start to think like, well, maybe I can solve all these grand problems with an app, right? Like or something like that, right? And maybe humanity just needs one technical fix, right, to get everything working right. And that leads to certain types of like transhumanism perhaps, right? Or at least it sits in that space, which is some people might argue is dehumanizing, right, in some ways. um but it kind of depends on your flavor of transhumanism. um
Okay. Say more about that, because I don't think that I know the different flavors of transhumanism, and it almost sounds like you're saying there is a transhumanism that humanizes.
maybe maybe I don't know. I was having a discussion with a friend about that recently. I think we were talking about Brian Johnson, if you know who he is, right? Is
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
yeah.
The eternal
Interesting.
vampire.
Eternal Vampire, right? And we were comparing. I was like, he said he was transhumanist, sort of in a sense, right? And I said, well, not like the other transhumanists that you may see, right? Like, because there is certain like tech transhumanists that are like, yeah, I want to upload my brain to the cloud, right? That's different than like I want to extend human life, right? Those are two different things in my mind, right? Like, because one of them is like a rejection of the physical body, right? In some ways, or like the corporeality of the human, um, which has a lot of like much more fraught implications, right? As a brand of transhumanism, and maybe both of them think you can overcome human limitations, right? I think that that's a common thread, right? But how it's done and whether or not it preserves like human life in a certain way, right? This sort of like embodied existence or not, right? I think that makes a difference. Now, there are probably like better philosophers or thinkers or writers who have thought about this and actually have good ideas. I've not done a bunch of reading on this topic, but that was just my off the cuff thought was like,
Yeah.
I think there's a pretty distinct difference in like, hey, I want to live longer, or make other people live longer, or whatever through medicine or diet or whatever. Right? One simple trick that doctors hate, versus like replace all my arms with mechanical ones. All my arms, all two of them. Yeah, you know what I'm saying though. There is a difference, I think, in the like cyborgization sort of vibe. Someone might argue that there's not, right? Maybe they're really just two paths to the same end, but I don't know if that's true.
Well, you almost argued it when you said that. Kind of. I mean, just playing with the ideas, right? Like
Sure.
every form of transhumanism is trying to go beyond human limitations,
Yeah,
and
sure.
maybe that's not true of every form. I don't know, but when you said that, I kind of went like my gut was like, I think I'm trying to like double down on my limitations if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
And I think part of that is I feel maybe it is just like the I hate this word so much, but I'm going to use it. I hate the word contrarian. I
Oh
don't.
yeah.
I was about to say it might be just be my contrarian nature, but I don't normally say that. I only say that occasionally when I hear people on the internet say it. They're like it slips out because
Yeah.
it's not. It's never a word I would use to describe myself. Um, I like the word rebel way more than contrarian. Contrarian is
Yeah.
the lamest way to say rebel imaginable.
Sure.
Um,
I think there's a distinction, but yeah.
what's the distinction?
um, I think contrarians have this feeling that they just can't allow there to be a consensus in some way, right? Whereas a rebel might have good other reasons to disagree. Um, yeah, I think rebel's less of an insult in some ways, or it's less of a problem maybe to be a rebel than it is to be a contrarian. It's not,
That's so funny.
not that I think there's anything wrong with like contrarians. Like I think it's important for people to push back on ideas, right? There is a strong use case for just pushing back on consensus, right? Just to find its weaknesses, right? Just to hash it
Mm,
out, just to like make other people say their arguments out loud, right?
yes.
That is there's a high value in that. But sometimes you can be annoying about it. Not you, but like it's possible to be very annoying, or to take it too far, right? Where it's like read the room kind of thing. There's a time and place. But
Yeah. Definitely not me because I'm not a contrarian because
yeah,
they're a bunch of nerds. I'm a rebel
exactly.
and
A
rebels are
rebel.
cool.
Yeah, you have a cause and all that
Um,
good stuff. Yeah.
oh, don't lose my train of thought.
It's okay.
Contrarian,
Yeah.
contrarian, transhumanism, limits.
Hmm.
I feel like everything around me wants me to go beyond my limits, and everything is like just like whispering, like you can do it, you can do it, you can go beyond your limits. And I'm kind of like, but why do I want to? Because part of me is like, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking a lot about like, is there a nobility in accepting my death? In being like, and also like, so I'm like becoming Anglican. We didn't talk about religion. Also, I have no idea where you are in any kind of the 39. No, on the 5,612 vector dimensions that make up religion and not religion. Um, but so like we're I don't know we're towards the end of Lent. At the beginning of Lent was like Ash Wednesday, and I had never
Hmm.
done. I like knew about Ash Wednesday, but I'd never done Ash Wednesday. And there was something about like walking up and being in this line, and then having this priest like mark my forehead with ashes and a cross, and be like, "You came from ashes, and you're going to ashes." And I've just been thinking about it for like 23 days since. And I'm like, I've been carrying my death with me. And I guess noble is the word that I want to use. I don't know what makes that noble, but whatever the transhumanism thing is, feels like the opposite of from dust you came, from dust you will return.
Mhm. Sometimes, and this is, maybe more broad than transhumanism, something I think about a lot, which is like the concept of progress, the concept of overcoming limits in general, right? Maybe they're not human mortality, but other things. Like, I like that we, built airplanes, right?
Yeah.
I like that we've gone to space. I want us to do that more. What that says about me, I don't know, right? But it is overcoming certain types of limits, right? And I think that's noble, right, on that side of the equation. I don't disagree with you either, right? I think you're right. Um, but
Do you
I also
think
want I
going to
want to leave
space
room.
is a limit?
I mean, for all of humanity's history, sort of, right? Like, we were stuck here on the ground, and we figured out how to not be here, right? In the last, just less than 200 years, we've gone from no one had ever left the surface of the earth, right? Essentially, to we've gone off of our planet entirely, right? That's a pretty big change in, like, what had been a pretty hard limit for all of human history. It's things like that, right? Like, I don't know, do you not consider it a limit or something that was limiting us?
Well, I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking about like my earlier comment about like surfboard technology and working with waves,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost feel like airplanes and rocket ships like work with creation. Like they're not trying to go beyond creation; they're trying to like partner with it and play with it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
And it's like you look up and you go like, "There's all those things up there in the sky. Like I want to go play there." So like I gotta build something to get there. Then it's like it can be done. So, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know what a limit is.
Because, as I say, you also have to live long enough to get out there, right?
Well, and that's
If you want to go to the next nearest planet, you know what I'm saying? Not in our solar system, but like, if you want to go to the next star over, you might need to live longer, right? I don't know. That's just I'm just picking something arbitrary that I think is, people talk about. Oh, we'll use a
yeah,
generational ship or something to get there, cryo sleep or something. Um, but space is, very far, very vast, and so, you know maybe you have to overcome some of those limits too, or maybe they're not limits, right? Like, if you lived double your current lifespan and you got to go to the, Alpha Proxima or something, right, the next star over, I don't, you know you would still die, right? Like, in the end, right? Eventually, right? But you would get to go there, right? You would have overcome what would be considered a vast challenge, right? Like something that is new and it's a frontier, right? I don't know. I see. I want to look for a middle path here, a synthesis, in this concept, because I think there is one somewhere, but it is something I think about quite a bit because I hear pushbacks against certain types of progress, right? In this particular context, we'll say, like, anti-aging or things like that, right? But I'm like, I like all our medical breakthroughs that we've made, right? I think they're great.
yeah,
I think we're doing great things, like curing cancers, when we can, like, and we seem to be able to fix some of them, right? That's awesome, right? I want us to do more of that. I know it's going to mean that some people live that we're going to die. Um, Now, it's not going to, like, immortalize them, but it did buy them another 10 years or 20 years, and that's pretty great that they get to spend that with their family, right? I don't know. I have a hard time not wanting that, right? Or ceding the ground to people who say that's unnatural. We shouldn't have done that. They were meant
hmm
to die, right? Like, yeah, I mean, eventually, regardless, the heat death of the universe will take us all, right? If even if you manage to somehow extend your life forever, right, in this physical realm, right, entropy will win as far as we can tell so far, right? So you still got to contend with that at the end of the day, right? If we really want to, like, stretch it out, even if you manage to hammer out all the other problems, right? Um, And I think you have other problems too before you get there. There are a lot of problems between here and the heat death of the universe, right? Like a lot of other things, a lot of challenges, and I think overcoming challenges is great, right? I think there are a lot of good reasons to think that it's awesome, and so yeah, that's just my little like. I think about that a lot because again, I have conversations with people, not who say like, oh, we shouldn't cure cancer, but like who push back on the concepts of like longevity science or something like that, maybe,
Yeah.
or feel spooked by them or something, and I'm like, but like it seems like we're doing something good here. I understand the arguments as to why the reason why someone might do that might be a little questionable, right? Or why you might feel like they're being ignoble, perhaps, right, in their pursuit of not dying, right, or something like that. But like the knock-on effects seem pretty good, right? Of allowing people to live longer, healthier lives. That seems like a net win, regardless of the reason.
So let me ask you this, because I think I found something that yeah, I'm gonna ask the question.
Sure,
Um,
you're only at 53 anyway.
the Dunbar number.
Yeah.
That feels like a limit. And I know people who try to go beyond the Dunbar number, and when they do, it's like, okay, so I can't be your friend anymore because you decided that you didn't have enough friends, and so I'm just going to remove myself because it's not fun at all to be your friend, and we were friends, and I'll see you later, dude. Like whatever. It's like that feels like a limit, and it feels like something that we often try to press beyond, or like build an app to go beyond your Dunbar number so that you can have your own like personal sales CRM to like keep in contact with all your friends. That feels like different to me than rocket ships and airplanes.
Yeah, and it might be right. There may be an overcoming that. I think there could be, right. It may not be an app, right, but yeah, it is hard to overcome things like time, right, where you have limits in time, right, or resources. Like I can only spend so much time with each friend. I can only commit so much space in my mind. Again, maybe a CRM will help me bump that number up. But yeah, there are limits that are tricky, and that you going beyond them, you would wonder, um, does this dehumanize me or people who I interact with? Um,
Yeah, because that is the question, right? Like, at what point does my trying to cross limits dehumanize me or other people?
yeah. No, I want, again, being like an optimist, I want there to be a way, like to do it without dehumanizing people. I want to have more friends. I want to spend more time with them, right? I want to have more genuine connections because I think they're great, right? And you could argue that the limits themselves are what make them valuable. Maybe. I don't know, right? I'm not that old. I don't have enough wisdom to to like tell you that for sure, right? I know that that argument has been made, right? That it is from the limits that some things derive value, possibly. But I'll tell you, maybe like 10 years ago, or maybe less than that, I was looking at like CRMs because I just like keeping track of my friends. I was like, oh,
Did you build a personal CRM?
I didn't build one. I didn't build one, but I thought about it for a long time. It was a joke. It was a joke within my friend group that I was going to have a Wikipedia, like a friend wiki, and it was going to have everyone's like information in there, and I was going to like use it to like figure out where like what people were doing and like keep track of everything. That was a long running joke that I was going to have the friend wiki and that my friends were going to be in it. I never got around to it really, but
You got plenty of time.
I do. Yeah, yeah.
That is hilarious. That makes me think of. I mean, this is different, but I have lots of like secret projects that like I wish that someday I'll have time to like make, and
Mhm.
I would be the wrong person to make this, but I like finding people that can make things and then just convincing them to make the thing. Um, I think it'd be really fun to have like a TLC card game where the different like internet characters like
Mhm.
do things.
Yeah.
I don't know why you talking about it, having
No,
your
no,
own
no. That's
personal
good.
CRM made me think of that, but like I just, yeah, I don't even have any examples to pull behind. I
Yeah,
haven't
sure.
even sat down and thought about it, but I feel like I actually I feel like that might inspire some comments. I hope it does. I hope someone listens to this and goes, "Oh yeah, you need this. Luke Thompson needs to have this power, and PVK needs to have this power." And yeah,
You should do that. You should write
no,
a proposal.
well, I'm gonna find the person. I'm gonna wait till I talk to somebody. They're like, "I'm really into trading cards. It's my hobby," and then I'm gonna like just slowly chip away at them, like the Colorado River chipped away at the Grand Canyon, and then someday we'll have a TLC trading card game.
And that would be progress.
Yeah, I'm not against progress.
No, I know you're not.
But
Yeah.
there is something about aiming, right? Like,
Hmm?
and I think
Yeah. Not all
that's
progress is forward.
that's well, even but not all forwards are the same
Same.
direction,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a really tricky question, at least to me.
Yeah.
Which forward do you move in? I have a final question for
Sure.
you, but is there any thread that you want to pull in, or are you content with the state of this conversation?
No, I think this went very well. This was good. This is very good.
Yeah, this was a blast. I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to like knowing you a little bit more now and being able to like send you a message and be like, "Hey, you have time to join this conversation because you have a really fun perspective that would blend well with other people who are opposite."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I just like those are fun conversations to be had. I think also like often like super generative when you get a techno optimist and a techno pessimist, but like unfair terrain where it's not a debate. It's just like
Yeah. Sure.
I think that's some of the joy of having a strange set of friends in the TLC where we need a search engine to keep track of each other.
Yeah. It's a very valuable thing. And likewise, this was great. What was the final question?
Okay, so this series is
Oh, you cut out.
okay. This microphone auto mutes me all the time,
Mhm.
and sometimes I swear it knows when to auto mute me
Yeah,
because
that was wild. It's right before the final.
yeah. One time I recorded this like 3.5 hour thing, and my StreamYard was freezing, and it would auto freeze just as I was like reaching the crescendo of a point, and then I started like noticing it as I was recording that like it was auto unfreezing, and then it started like freak me out. And I swear my technology is like conspiring both against and for me.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, final question. So this is part of a larger series called The Quest for the Holy Techne. So this will be called Parker and the Quest for the Holy Techne. Um, and the final question is: did we discover, uncover, find anything holy in our time together? There is no right or wrong answer. I brought some like two of my like very good real life friends into YouTube stuff for the first time, and I asked this question, and my buddy Caleb immediately goes, "No," and I was like so caught off guard. But I love that. I mean, probably because there was no I don't know prophilicity pressure. He was just like, "No, there was nothing holy." And then my other buddy Luke responds and goes, "I think every word of the conversation was holy," and I
Yeah.
was cracking up.
I'll have to take like a middle ground, which is to say, like I think there's potential for holiness, right, on the internet. Um, yeah, I think we didn't really get to it exactly, but I think there's something there. I think that if you look for it, right, I think in the you I think you can actually maybe make places. I There's a discussion that I've had before that hasn't really been fully fleshed out with a friend of mine about whether or not you can have like a sacred or holy sort of space on the internet. I think that asking the question might give you like a glimpse of something holy, right? There we go. That's as far as I think I can go, and saying like there's something there, and that's kind of where I'll leave it, which is a little indeterminate, but you know, it's something that can be workshopped.